To a Monday night edition of the Buddy Martin Show. Meldon Law Monday on the Buddy Martin Show tonight. And we're going to have a lot of good conversation about SEC Media Days, kind of the first harbinger of spring. The fact that they're having SEC Media Days, and it was quite a day, a really good day for the SEC in Dallas. A little later on, we'll hear from our man Rob Browne out there, and we'll find out what he had to say about it. I watched it all day. We'll talk to you about that tonight on the show. This is Monday night. That means standing by is the quarterback himself from the Pot Up with Matthews show. He'll join us in just 1 second right here on the Buddy Martin Show. We hope your day went well today. It was a little cloudy and rainy over here, but wound up to be a nice day. Stand by. Buddy Martin Show is on the air.
Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
And welcome to the program. I'm Buddy Martin. It's called the Buddy Martin Show for that reason. With a lot has happened the last 2 or 3 days. My goodness, all the way from Friday and a hard assassination attempt of former President Trump, and what a crazy weekend it was. And we're just grateful that that bullet wasn't one more inched to the other side. So I know you've heard plenty about that. We're not going to talk about it tonight. We know there's been a nomination for a vice president. We don't do politics on here. You know why? Because this guy told me I ain't talking no politics with you, buddy. Only football. Shane Matthews, host of the Pot Up with Matthews show. Good evening to you, Shane.
What's happening, buddy?
Hey, Shane, I've been wanting to ask you this. Are you a gamer?
A what?
Gamer. Do you play video games?
No. Never have.
Did you ever back in the day play Madden?
No.
No. You know people who do?
I mean, I know of some people. None of my buddies really play video games. My kids never play video games, so I know there's a big uproar about the new college game. I guess it coming out soon or something. I don't know.
Out today, Shane. Out today. 4 o'clock today. I've got the list of players, Florida players, how they were rated. I don't know much about it. When I was a kid, we played those old-fashioned board games, and they had an old electric tin board that buzzed and the players moved around. Arcade back in the day, and then later on there were more sophisticated games. I didn't get into the video games, but a lot of people really get into it. Tomorrow night, we'll talk about it with Kyle Curtis, who's still grown enough to enjoy that. But I have heard people say, now get this, that the single most exciting thing about this year is not the SEC expanding, but the new EA game that's out. I'm sorry. So I heard
don't understand that.
They're upset about the possible changing of the stadium. That's a subject for another day. I'm sure we'll have many talks about that, Shane.
The changing of the stadium, what's that got to do with the video game?
Nothing. Just there's 2 different age groups. The younger people care about the video game, and the older people care about. I told you when I was up in North Carolina, I was eating lunch at a restaurant there, and a Gator fan coworker came in, and very nice guy, and his father was a little Gator and all that. And he said that he was okay with Napier and all the other stuff, but the one thing he was most upset about was what they were going to do with the stadium. Very upset about it because
I don't think anybody knows what they're going to do with the stadium, and regardless of it, they're not going to change the structure of it. They may just take some seats out, which the way the thing is constructed, it's still going to be extremely loud.
Yeah, yeah, I understand, but I think there's a lot more to it than that. I think some people don't like the idea that there are going to be a lot of luxury boxes and not many seats for the average person. College football is pricing the average person, the family out anyway. Can't afford to buy tickets anyway. Anyway, that's one thing. Hey, Shane, before I get into the subject of the night, which is the SEC media days, I don't know how much you heard or watched. I watched it all since
I did. I watched not 1 minute of it. I forgot it was on.
Wow.
I wasn't home though. I haven't been home all day, so
okay. Well, anyway, I'll catch up on what's important, but it was an interesting day and a good day for the SEC, and I thought Sankey did a brilliant opening statement. It was long, but he made the SEC sound like the second coming, and he had a lot to talk about, but didn't brag. They kept trying to get him to single out Texas and Oklahoma. What's your focus on? What's your focus on? He kept saying all 16, all 16, all 16. He's really trying to not break them out. Wants to make it one tournament. But anyway, so it was an interesting day today. Billy Napier will be on Wednesday. I have a clip later on talking to Rob Browne, who was there. I think the best thing I saw all day was Lane Kiffin. And it was a different Lane Kiffin. And it was, he was more somber. Obviously, he lost his dad. And then find out him on later, he was really, really good. I even texted Paul a note, and Paul said, yeah, he was very good today. And I don't want to say he's more humble, but he just was different. When you lose your father, someone like that who was with him every minute of the day and coached with him, I'm sure something. So, but Kiffin was extraordinary, and he's there. They have a lot of high hope for that Ole Miss team. They got a bunch of folks coming back. Brian Kelly was also on. He talked a lot about how just because you get a bunch of players in the portal, it doesn't make a team. As you know, Shane, that sometimes, you get a bunch of players, but they don't fit what you got. So he said he thought he improved his team, but he says, if you're going to the portal to fix things, you're in bad shape. So anyhow, that's what that's all about. Later on today night, we'll hear from Rob out in Dallas. And, of course, Franz Beard will be here. It is talking season. Time to talk about teams. Shane, you don't get that fired up about it. I know you wait for the games to be played. But a lot of people are like, this is the first. It's like Christmas shopping, that starts on Thursday, Friday after Thanksgiving. It's kind of like the SEC media days. Not for me, but many people do. As you know, Black Friday is a huge shopping day. So a lot of people did. In fact, the funniest thing, and maybe the most just thing, is how much trouble Saban's given to the media over the years. He came down today to do the show, and he went down there, and the security guard stopped him and would not let him in because he wasn't wearing his media credential.
That's great.
Had to go back upstairs to his room and get it and come back down before he get in. He said, I've never had to wear a credential before. He was very good, though. He said the guy was doing his job. That's what he's supposed to do, And so that was kind of funny. Saban was good today. Saban did a good job. And of course, about Texas.
Yeah, I didn't see any of it today, but what I saw of Nick Saban last year, the little bits and pieces that he did with ESPN, I thought he was phenomenal. And I think he's going to bring a lot to game day.
I agree with you. He was really good today. He had a lot to say. And they asked him about, someone said, well, Texas always said it ran Big 12. What's going to happen to him in the SEC? He said, it ain't happening here that Texas is not going to run the SEC. So I put that down right away, that gauntlet. But he was good. Saban had some interesting insights, I thought, and enjoyed. You're right. He will definitely be an asset to that broadcast. And he knows the game. And one of the things that happened is that apparently when Monty Kiffin died, Nick texted, which he never does, Lane, and called him. But today, when he got there, he sought Lane out. And Lane was so impressed because he really appreciated that. And, of course, Saban's a bit of a father figure to him anyway. Mm-hmm. And he was very complimentary. Lane said, listen, he gave me a chance when people were down on me. Those 3 years I spent there resurrected my career, and I'll always be grateful for it. And so it was a very good segment with him, and it was good to see that coming together like that. All right, so Shane, we have a lot of baseball to talk about. A lot of players got picks today. Looks like somebody might lose one or two. We'll talk about that. I want to talk to you about how Florida's picked in one place, picked 12th to finish 12th in the SEC. Well, that's not the bottom. There's 16 teams. Owner finished by USA Today, picked them 12th. Anyway, so that's what we're going to be hearing more of. I guess we'll get the picks at the end of the week, and we'll find out what people think. But I heard you on your show today. You're sticking to your guns. You said you think they're going to win 8 or 9 games, or I think you said.
I said they could win 7 or 8.
Yeah.
Look, I'm not worried about what the national people think. Everybody looks at the schedule on paper. Again, 7 of those teams have new quarterbacks that we're playing. That's a big deal to me. We don't know how those teams are going to be when we play them. Like I said, we have to it's imperative to get off to a fast start. And I honestly think we should start the season at 5-0, and I will be extremely disappointed if we don't.
I'm with you on that. I do.
There's 2 teams on there that I don't think we can beat. I don't think we can beat Texas, and I don't think we can beat Georgia.
Yeah.
I think everybody else is beatable.
One guy on there today on 5-bomb picked Texas to go 12-0. I don't think that's going to happen, but we'll see. Well, the league is going to be good. It's going to be fun to be a part of this ACC now. And I thought, again, Sankey was really brilliant today in his deal. Brian Kelly was pretty good today. He talked about how he wanted to see what his team was how they're going to respond. Both guys who've done well in the portal, Lane and Brian Kelly, both backed off a little of that and said you cannot live in the portal alone. And in fact, Kelly said if you're going to the portal to fill in and plug up your holes, you made some recruiting mistakes you probably can't get over. You got to have a balance in that. You got to have the high school players. And he said that you never know and you said this a bunch of times, how these guys are going to mesh. These guys in Portland with their regulars. I mean, they're coming to get the jobs, these people, right? So it depends on the chemistry and how it meshes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know who LSU's gotten out of the portal. I feel like they recruit a lot of kids out of high school. Now, Lane, on the other hand, doesn't sign anybody out of high school pretty much. I bet you 70% of his team is from the transfer portal.
Yeah.
Which is fine. That's what he likes to do. I don't think he's a big-time recruiter. But you can have some bad apples, or if things kind of go sideways early on for that player, they can be a bad apple on your team and be somewhat of a cancer. So, time will tell. I think Ole Miss, I think everybody knows that watches this show knows I love Ole Miss. It's my second favorite school. But I have doubts about them due to so many new players. And let's be honest, Ole Miss loses the games that they have to win every year.
They think their defense is a lot better on Ole Miss than what they were. And while he wasn't bragging, Lane was pretty confident about the team he had put together, but he didn't know until you see him on the field. Talk about bad apples. I heard you comment about it today. Cormani McLean, I think he's from Lakeland, who was a 5-star corner and went to play for Dion in Colorado and has gotten in a bunch of trouble out there, apparently, primarily for not showing up to meetings on time. Now, as we know, came back to Florida and walked on. But as you reported this morning, as I read today, other reports, he's doing the same thing in Gainesville. He's missed a bunch of meetings, even to a point where his teammates are being punished. They're all having to run or lift or do something, do sit-ups, push-ups, whatever it is, because he's been late. And I heard you say today they need to get that guy out of there.
Well, unless he changes his attitude quickly, there's nothing worse than a team being punished for a guy doing his own thing. You know, I've either said he gets his ass beat in the locker room and he changes his attitude, or they just got to ship him out of here. And again, this is nothing against that kid. I've just seen that my entire career, and at the pro level, at the collegiate level, at the high school level. Some guys just don't have great work ethic. They're not responsible. They're not accountable. And that's a recipe for disaster for your football team.
It's the locker room, as you talk about. And I have only one frame of reference for me is in football when I was in high school. And I had a summer workout schedule where I worked out every day and ran every day in the heat to try to get in shape for my senior year. And we opened up, and I was by myself most of the time because we needed to work out back in those days. And I'm not trying to set myself up as an example. Said my old coach had told me, you got to use the summer to get better. And I remember being in the first game we played in Bradenton. Manatee was number 4 in the country in his state. And we played them, and we scored on them pretty good. And we got down there 19-13 the first half. We're in the game. And then we came back out the second half, and most of my teammates were cramping up and throwing up on the sideline. And it made me angry because I know some people get that, but I wasn't cramping up, and I wasn't, because I had worked out and I was in decent shape. So I can imagine at that level the Gators are at, if Kermani McLean is causing him to have to do extra work because he's late, that's not going well with them, Shane.
No, but they need to just go ahead and do what they do in the National Football League when you're late for meetings or you're overweight. You get in their checkbook. So, it's usually $500 to $600 per pound that you're overweight.
Really, that much?
And it's a couple $1,000 for every minute you're late. It varies from team to team. But I can promise you, if you did that, his ass would show up or he'd just quit.
Well, when there's all this stuff about NIL, it might come to that one day.
Well, I would. Now that I thought about it, I mean, first of all, he should be beaten. I don't want to cause violence here, but that back in the day, if you did stuff like that, you get your ass beat in the locker room until your attitude changed. Mm-hmm. But in today's world, the amount of money they're being paid, I'd fine him and fine him and fine him constantly.
Man, you were tough, Shane. You were tough, dude.
No, buddy, it's simple. It's about accountability.
Yeah.
If you're accountable, your team and your coaches can trust you. If you do not do those are simple things. You don't have to have any talent. You just have to be an accountable person and do your job. And if you can't even show up on time, that just makes no sense to me.
Yeah. Did I hear you say today this is the biggest opening game you can remember?
Oh, I would say it's the biggest opening game.
I heard somebody say it. Was it you?
No, I've said it multiple times. I think it's the biggest opener we've had probably since I became a Gator.
Well, I would disagree on that because there's a couple other games, but I mean, I get the point. I mean, where does it say Miami is a top 10 team?
What's that?
Where does it say Miami's that?
No, it doesn't say that, but you have to start the season 5-0, in my opinion. If you start at 5-0, because those teams are all beatable. I don't see them being better than the Gators. And 4 of those games are at home. You have to win those. And then you win them, the momentum builds, all the negativity that people want to talk about goes away. You're still going to have the same negative people that are out there every day, which I do not understand why they want to live their life that way, but they do. And they can be miserable. But I just think you have to win those first 5 games.
All right, that's fair enough. I saw a couple of schedules today where it looks like a lay down for a couple of these teams. They're going to be 5-1 or 5-0 in a heartbeat. The schedule is very soft for many people. Coming up on the program in just a few minutes, Rob Browne reporting from SEC Media Days. We have the list of players for those of you who participate in this stuff in the EA game, how they're ranked, Gator players, how they rank. We'll talk about that a little later because Shane's not interested in that stuff. And we'll talk about
I'm not. It's not that I'm not interested. I don't play games.
You're like me. I don't either.
How far back what players are on there? How far back do they go?
They just the current players. It's the current players.
Just the current players.
Apparently, it's the current players. Yeah. We'll get more of it tomorrow night from Kyle Curtis, who's going to get the game and play it today.
How much does the game cost these days, buddy?
I have no idea. It's a good question, and we'll find out all that tomorrow night from Kyle. He'll tell us. He came out today at 4:00, I think.
So when you say here's just how dumb I am when it comes to video games. It came out at 4:00. Does that mean if people wanted to play it, they had to go stand in line at some store to buy it?
Somewhere, I don't know where it may be, but I can tell you just a couple of notes about it. They rank the players. They rank them and give them a grade. And then that's accordingly to how you play this game, is how many players you got, who they are, and I guess who's in the game with you. For instance, Florida's impact players, come no surprise to you, Montrell Johnson, 87 overall, and Jason Marshall, 89 overall. So I don't know what that means exactly, but hey, we'll talk more about it after we do a little commercial break. And we'll talk about the baseball. Looks like Sully may have dodged a bullet on the draft today. And what did you think about Cags being drafted 6?
Are you asking me now, or are you going to commercial?
Think about it. We'll go to commercial. Come back. All right. It's called a tease. All right. Shane Matthews will be back with me just a moment. I want to tell you about this program. Of course, it's sponsored by many fine sponsors. The chief sponsor being Meldon Law. The folks at Meldon, you've been hearing me talk about them for years. I know Jeffrey's abroad somewhere. I tried to call him today, and I realized maybe it's 7:00 in the morning where he is. And they've done many great things here in our community. They have great giveaways this fall. I urge you to be sure to check out their Facebook page, because every week they give away tickets and all kinds of stuff. And also, if you're interested in anything to do with law, they can handle that too. Call them up, and if you have a problem with another lawyer and you don't like the results or answers you're getting for your case, you want a second opinion, it's free. Call them up and ask them. They'll talk to you about that. Like Jeffrey says, when you call there, you get to talk to a Meldon. You don't get shuffled off to somebody that you somewhere in Buffalo or something. So Meldon Law, you know about them. They won't back down, and they're there for the Gators all the time. The only official law firm associated with the University of Florida, Meldon Law. Jack Caglione, the 14th Gator taken in the first round since Kevin O'Sullivan became the UF head coach in 2008. And in the last 3 years, 4 Gators have been chosen in the first round. Caglione, Wyatt Langford, Waldrop, and Sterling Thompson. So pretty good. He tied as the 4th highest drafted player in UF history. Highest drafted first baseman ever. 7th top 7 pick in UF history for Florida. He joins Mike DeZanino, AJ Puck, Jonathan India, and Wyatt Langford. So baseball tonight, by the way, all-star game. I guess they're having the home run. You watch the home run contest, Shane?
No, sir.
Me neither. So among the Gators signing Kellen Lindsey, number 23 taken overall. So he was drafted today. His slot value is $3.6 million. He's probably gone, I would say.
He's gone. He's gone.
One thing I like about Caglione going to the Royals, who, by the way, they get Brady Singer, and they seem to be very aggressive in the marketplace. They got this guy, Bobby Witt. What a great player he is, man. He can't, the Rays can't get him out. Now, Caglione and Bobby Witt will be in the same lineup. And they're going to let Caglione play, be a pitcher and a first baseman. So that's good to go. So he got a good deal there. Also, a couple other things in baseball. Brandon Neely picked number 86 by the Red Sox. Fisher Jameson chose by the Colorado Rockies the 10th round. So we'll see what happens to them, Shane, if they stay or go. I think Sully probably has an idea. He probably made sure he got a couple of backups just in case. So,
yeah, they've done a good job bringing in guys, and probably the one that I don't want to say hurt them, but the kid that was the shortstop that went 22nd or whatever.
Yeah,
nice about him, but
yeah,
he's not going to turn that money down.
No way. I wouldn't blame him. Nor would I advise him to do that. Let's talk about how this team is shaping up. I know it's too early to make a big plunge on what's going on, but we're starting to get serious now, putting pen to paper. I think we're liking what we're hearing and seeing and feeling, although, as you say, till they win a game, you won't really know. But it seems like, and they were picked 12th out of 16, but I think there's some people who like what's happening. Now, people out there in Dallas tell me there's a lot of people talking about Florida, so we'll see what happens there. But what's your sense of that?
I don't know what people are thinking. I don't think a lot of people around the country, as I said, I think if we go 7-5, which we should have done last year, losing Missouri and Arkansas the way they did, if you're 7-5, I think people are thinking different about this team. I think if we play just barely average defense, this team wins a lot more games. That's what I'm hanging my hat on. I think we're going to be a good offensive football team. I think we brought in better players on defense. He made some changes, as we all know, on the coaching staff on the defense side of the ball. And it comes down, I say it every day on my show. I've been joking around, but I'm saying it every day for the rest of the year. If our defense can be average, we will win a bunch of football games.
I've heard you say it a bunch of times. I don't disagree with you on that.
Yeah. I mean, because, it's amazing to me how people want to talk about offense. I get it. Everybody loves offense. And I'm not talking about we're going to be the damn 85 Bears or anybody like that, or this ain't going to bring Wilbur Marshall back, any of those guys. Just play average defense. Be like 50th in the country in defense. 50th. You'll win a lot more games.
Yeah. You take a look at some of those numbers where they were, and you think, how could they have even done as well as they did? So I think there's a surge of optimism. I want to do something here. I've got a short bite from Rob out in Dallas. There's a lot of excitement in the air. I'm going to bring Franz aboard and say good evening to him, say hi to Shane, and then I'm going to go over here and see if I can get this brief bite, get you guys to comment on this. This is how the atmosphere is, what's happening out in Denver, both Denver and Dallas, where Brendan and Rob are. They're by the way, they're reporting and writing on it every day at 5:00. Stand by.
College football, and we're just that much closer to the season starting. And so far, SEC Media Days has been gone off without a hitch. There's just so many storylines, and there's so many new rivalries. Man, Texas and Florida, Texas people are already talking about, and neither one of those schools was featured today, but I talked to a lot of my Texas media friends. November 9th, the Gators and Texas, you're talking about the top 2 high school football states in America. I mean, we're not even. I don't think people fully are appreciating what's going on in the SEC. You think it's been great before? I mean, we're just getting started.
I have to stop you there because you got a dinner date tonight.
No, we're good.
But I wanted to say this. I watched every minute of it almost all day. As you know, I've been to 15 media days or whatever it was. And you really can't even see it all unless you sit right there and watch it all day, which I did. I saw everything they did from the morning all the way through. I got a chance to watch on Feinbaum's show when Kiffin was on there, and it was really a good segment Paul did. And I texted Paul and said, boy, that was refreshing when he talked about his relationship with Saban, because Saban sought him out today. Sought him out to tell him about his dad. And you could tell that obviously Lane was really touched by it. And I told him it was refreshing. And Paul texted back and said, Lane was terrific today. So, that was a good segment. And let me tell you my favorite thing, and then I want to get your thoughts. My favorite thing was open up today, and Greg Sankey, who had a very good but long opening comment today, I thought very good, said Nick Saban couldn't get in the media room because he didn't have his credential. He had to go back upstairs to his hotel room, get his credential, and come down, and couldn't get in till he got it. So, and he's never had a credential. I thought it was funny. It was appropriate, and I think they did their job. But even Saban said he was just doing his job. So that was kind of neat.
Well, it reminds me of a story. I think 1976, Alabama came to Memphis in the Liberty Bowl to play UCLA. It was 9 degrees the night of the game. Coach Bryant showed up to go to come into the stadium, didn't have his credentials. And the old fellow there at the gate said, well, you're not getting in past me. And he said, well, you're not getting in till you get your credentials. And there's Nick Saban this morning. I mean, the irony of that, it was funny. And I thought it was really funny. And by the way, Paul Feinbaum, he has a knack for doing these great interviews. And all these people talk about Lane Kiffin and Nick Saban. My personal feeling is maybe Nick Saban, sure, he got mad at Lane Kiffin for something here or there. But I think Lane Kiffin was that one coach, rather than, sit on his hands in the meetings with the coaches, he stood up and said, we got to change the offense. And in 14, 15, and 16, Alabama pulled off 3 consecutive SEC championships. And all 3 years they went to the college playoff. They won a national championship, came up short in another one against Clemson in 2016. But he did it with 3 different quarterbacks. He got Nick Saban to change and move forward. And it changed Alabama football and college football forever. It was as significant as Steve Spurrier coming into the SEC in 1990 and going from a run-first league to throwing the ball. And don't ever underestimate how much Steve Spurrier ran the ball. The longer he was at Florida, the better the running game got. But there's just so many great storylines.
In a perfect world, you'd set a health goal and results would happen overnight. In this world, the real world, it takes time, dedication, and the right support to achieve your best self. The Vitamin Shop's health enthusiasts are here to make sure you're not wasting a...
Boy, where'd that come from? Did you bring that, France?
You're sponsored by the Body Shop or Vitamin Shop, buddy.
But I could probably use a couple vitamins here and there.
I think France has got a new sponsor. He didn't tell us about it. Popped it in there. So there you go, talking about your coach again. How does that make you feel ashamed when people say it was the most significant thing that happened since Steve Spurrier came in the league in 1998, changed everything?
I can't disagree with that.
Let Shane respond to that, then you, France. Shane, how did you feel when you heard that?
Well, I mean, I think Coach Spurrier not only changed the SEC, I think he changed college football. It was the 3 yards in a cloud of dust, and we didn't do that. And it took the league by storm and pretty much the entire country. And he changed the way that people play offensive football for sure.
Yeah, that Franz, that Alabama game was probably a shock. And I remember someone saying, Steve talking about, someone wrote a thing. He said Alabama played like Florida and Florida played like Alabama. You remember that?
Yes, I do. I also remember when Shane was a sophomore quarterback there, a redshirt sophomore quarterback, went to Tuscaloosa, and everybody says, well, Spurrier is going to have all sorts of problems because he's going to wing it all over the place, and they're not going to play any kind of defense. What was it, 17-13 game, a block punt, 3 interceptions, win it for Florida. And I think that was the game that really showed everybody that Steve Spurrier wasn't some fly-by-night coach who just had some cockamamie idea about offensive football and didn't give a damn about anything else.
Shane, when did you all know you had something special?
Probably after that game. Coach Spurrier will tell you that's the biggest game in the history of Florida football.
What was the feeling like going to the game?
It was one of them 11 o'clock starts. I mean,
well, what was the mood when you're going to play Alabama? It's a big game. What was your belief? What was your conviction? What was the team convicted they could win?
Well, yeah, well, look, as a quarterback, most of Coach Spurrier's I'd say pretty much all his quarterbacks were kind of the same. We were all pretty kind of kept to ourselves, and all we worried about was our plan. Go operate the plan, and good things will happen. He always says good things are going to happen, bad things are going to happen. Just keep playing. And a lot of bad things happened in that game. We couldn't block them half the game. Then we get some good plays on defense. We blocked a punt, made a few plays offensively, enough plays to win. But offensive guys are totally different than defensive guys. We have to think. So, going to the game is you're thinking about what you have to do. Defensively, it's all emotion and reaction.
Yeah. Well, as one who was there, and so was Franz, when it all happened, and we talked about this 1,000 times, we didn't know Shane Matthews, John Reeves knew who you were. He played a big role in helping you get your opportunity in the spring game. But we didn't know much about you. But as he clearly said, and I was standing when he said it, who's going to be your quarterback? I don't know, but whoever it is will lead the league in passing. He flatly said that. I remember. Remember that, Franz?
I do. I do. I remember that because Jack Hairston and I, on a day later, Jack Hairston and I are having lunch together, and Jack Hairston said, "That's the same old Steve Spurrier I've always known." He said, yeah. he said if he believes it, it's coming out of his mouth.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'll never forget the Oklahoma State game. My goodness, Shane comes out there. It's like four passes down the field, and then a running play for a touchdown. It's like, we just completed as many passes in one drive as the team the year before completed in any 2 games in the last half of the season after Kyle Morris and Stacey Simmons got hurt.
It was hard to believe it was happening for Gator fans. I know that because it was really something. I'll let Shane get out of here and go get ready for his show tomorrow morning. But back at the history now, sometimes Shane, it's even more unbelievable now when you think about it, because you see, what would you say to Florida's starting quarterback that he should believe in, and how should he respond? What advice could you give him on how to approach the season?
Well, Graham Mertz he's a pro, man.
I know that, but what would you say to him about long term, if he sticks to it, what could happen? What would you tell him?
I'd just tell him, just go do your job. Just be a good leader, be a good teammate, let things fall where they may. It's believing in what you're doing. We always believe what we were doing because we practice. I mean, teams don't practice like Steve Spurrier's practices. I mean, we would literally throw the ball on air for over an hour. And so we are spacing, you know, I had Kerwin Bell on my show last week, and Kerwin, when I hear him talk, I'm like, this is Coach Spurrier talking. So people should go back and listen to the interview. It was on Friday. And he talked about their spacing and how much they throw on air. And I don't want to say it just makes it easy, but it does, because everybody knows what you're supposed to be doing. And in today's world, this is not just the Gators, it's everybody out there. The way people practice is so much different than the way Coach Spurrier practices. And there's a million ways to do things, but I'm a big believer as a quarterback practicing the way Coach Spurrier did. But look, I think we're going to be fine offensively. As I said, let's just play average defense. Let's be in the top 50 in defense, and we're going to be okay.
Yeah, well, like I said, every year goes by that what you guys did in 1990 was even more amazing. Where would it be, friends, if it hadn't happened that way? We'd still be talking about the first SEC, right?
Oh gosh, I grew up a wait till next year Gator, and thought we had it in '84, and then they took it away. My dad and my grandfather both died before they ever saw the Gators win the SEC in either football or basketball. I'm writing about it for a column later this week about how, Ray Graves basically told Norm Sloan to take the North Carolina State job, largely because he was afraid that Coach Sloan was going to win the SEC before he did. Because, and as a result, Coach Sloan said, "I'll stay if you'll just give me new office furniture and new carpet." And Coach said, "We don't have that in the budget."
He probably wasn't kidding. Looking at
well,
all right, Dave.
Hopefully, there's rumors out there that there's a possibility they may honor 84 and 85 players.
That would be good.
And I sure hope they do. Unfortunately, Kerwin won't be able to make it, but hopefully a lot of the other players, because there's some dudes that have serious resentment, man. And
they should. They should.
They're getting up there in age. They've lost a lot of players on those teams, and they need to be honored in some capacity.
This guy right over here on this side of the screen could help make it happen. Freddie Weeby's listening. He's called, what's it called, his agency? Making it happen? Make that one happen, Freddie. Let's bring us back for 84, 85 reunion. All right, guys, change in. I'll talk to you tomorrow morning.
All right, gentlemen. Have a good night.
Matthews, all right? Looking forward to it. All right, thanks. Franz, let's talk for a second about the baseball team and the picks and stuff that happened today. We know all about what happened to Cags, etc. It looks like maybe Sully could have dodged a bullet on the draft choices. He lost one in shortstop. What's it look like?
Well, he's done very well altogether. I mean, he lost. You lose Caglione, you lose Neely, Fisher, Jameson. Pretty much it. Kellen Lindsey wasn't going to be a Gator. I mean, he signed with us, but I mean, he's first-round draft pick, and they knew he was going to be first rounder, and they knew he was going to sign $3.68 million. It's a little bit more than you and I started out with when we became functioning adults.
Well, not you, but me.
But Brendan Lawson, the shortstop from Canada who played at P-27 Academy in Lexington, South Carolina, didn't get drafted, largely because he told them how much money he wanted and said, "If you don't give me this much, I'm going to Florida." Same thing that happened with a couple of the pitchers, Rittenauer and Barberi. Basically said the same thing. So none of the high school draftees, with the exception of Kellen Lindsey, have been taken in the draft. Ty Evans wasn't taken, which that was a bit of a surprise to me. And given that he's a 10th rounder later, 11th rounder later, he might be wise to come back. And if he does, Imagine an outfield with Blake Sear from Miami, who was a freshman All-America a couple of years ago, hit 17 home runs. Kyle Jones, the Gold Glove center fielder from Stetson, and all of a sudden, then you got Ty Evans back there, who's shown some real power. Now all of a sudden, you got a heck of an outfield. Colby Shelton, undrafted, and I think again a guy that basically said, "Okay, I'll go, but this is how much you're going to have to pay me." Now, see, he's got the option. He's got 2 years of eligibility remaining, so he can afford to say, this is my price. So now all of a sudden you got Colby Shelton back. You've got Cade Curlin back at second base. You need a first baseman. Brian Donay probably going to be that guy. Got to have a third baseman. That's probably going to be Brendan Lawson. Or it could be Justin Nadeau from the transfer from Jacksonville, who hit like 390 this year. I mean, you got some. They've got some real options. I'm convinced that Florida is going to emerge from this draft and from this season really, really strong. They're going to have to find a closer now because Fisher Jameson going and Neely going in the draft. But I think Jake Clemente or McNeely, I think they've got guys that can fulfill that role. The Michael Ross from Samford, 13-0. Billy Barlow comes in from Clemson, another guy that I think may transition to be that closer. So Sully is kind of like a cat, lands on his feet a lot.
And here we are talking baseball right in the middle of SEC media today.
I know. Wasn't Sankey good today, though?
Really good. The SEC had a good day. Sankey was extraordinary. A little long, but he touched all the bases, man. He didn't leave anything out. It was a very good opening, too. It started out with Billy Cannon, and we saw a few of the famous scenes in there. It was a big day for the SEC, and it's going to play out really well for them. I heard from Rob today, and I'll have him on again tomorrow night. But people are talking about Florida, too, a lot. By the way, you know what else you're talking about? The EA game, the new football video game, which now rates the players. You get to play the players based on their rating. And Florida's ratings came out today. Okay. Kyle Curtis has the game, is going to play it. And tomorrow he'll be on the show and explain to guys, dummies like us, don't usually understand how it works. But who do you think the highest players were ranked according to what EA did?
Probably Graham Mertz and probably Eugene Wilson.
Okay, well, you're not wrong, but here's what they got. The impact players, Montrell Johnson, 87. Jason Marshall, 89.
Wow.
Jake Slaughter, 87.
Yeah.
Trey Wilson, 86. Elijah Badger, 85. So they had the speed ratings. The speed ratings were Tank Hawkins. Excuse me. Yeah, Hawkins, sorry. 97. Aiden Mizell, 96. TJ Abrams, 95. And Trey Wilson, 93. Along with Marshall. So there's some information. I'm not sure what it means, but people are very excited about it.
Speed ratings are important, buddy, because you know what that tells you? Last year, they had Ricky Pearsall who could run a vertical route. Eugene Wilson, it wasn't until toward the end of the year they started trusting him to know the routes enough because he wasn't here in the spring. And so he ran just drag routes and bubble screens and things like that.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until the end of the year that he went vertical. Right. Now he's going to be able to go vertical. And you look at Mizell, you look at these other guys, they're flyers. Chimere Dike has great speed. He's a long strider that gets underestimated for his ability to go deep. But you get Dike, you got Badger, you got Wilson, and these guys. Florida's going to be able to make the safeties back off, and that's going to really open the game up a lot. I was watching a replay the other day about the Florida Ohio State game. Remember that game in 2006?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Remember the safeties at Ohio State playing 30 yards off the ball because they were so afraid of Florida's speed. And so Florida just kept just tossing the ball over the head of the linebackers and just chunking it down the field. And Percy had like 6 or 7 catches. I think CI had nine catches, and Dallas Baker had a few. Dallas Baker even had a touchdown the first Florida drive.
Yeah.
But when you say last year, if you watch Florida's replays, where are Florida's safeties? Florida's safeties are playing so far off the football that they couldn't make plays in no man's land, which is that distance between your safeties and your linebackers. And that's where Florida got killed last year.
Yeah.
And this year they've got safeties who can step up and make plays.
Yeah.
And I agree with Shane. If Florida just can do that, be an average defense. If they'll do what Auburn did, what Ron Roberts did for Auburn, 4 first downs and 7 points a game.
Yeah, very big. I want to say, I'm going to take a quick break and tell you about my sponsor, but come back. I want you to just reassess what happened at Media Days today. We talked about Sankey today. Brian Keller was pretty positive. I know you watched a good bit of it. I watched it all day long. We'll get our thoughts on SEC Media Days as we count it down, and we got Wednesday. Napier will be up, and we'll talk Gators. Right now, I want to tell you about our good friends, Titan MRI. If you happen to be in the market for an MRI, listen up. This is important because you have the ultimate in customer service right there in Gainesville. If you're in North Florida, check them out. Go to titanmri.com and find out their directions. Call them up, make a reservation. You can actually get an appointment for an MRI at your time you need, at night or weekends. So customize your appointment. What company does that? Nobody. Secondly, if you have an insurance problem and you don't have insurance, they'll take your cash or card, and it's not for a terrible amount of money. It's pretty reasonable. And thirdly, they try to make an experience good for you. They have their settings and their everything set so you can have more room when you go into that old cubby hole to get your MRI. And they don't want you to be claustrophobic. They're aware of that. So if you're interested in this kind of place, go to titanmri.com and find out all about where you can make your own appointments, and they'll treat you with the utmost of care. titanmri.com. I would give Sankey a 9.5 on his speech. What would you give?
About a 9.8 myself.
Yeah.
And the reason being, buddy, is I'll use one word and you tell me what you think. 16. Call it a word or a number.
Yeah.
Did that seem like the emphasis that Sankey kept on hammering to us?
Yeah, I'm not surprised either. That was a good strategy. He would not let separate out and say, well, what about these two new teams? No, all one family, one group. They kept saying all 16, all 16, all 16.
But here's the thing that really impressed me too. He would not get roped into a discussion about Clemson and FSU. He basically said, we're happy with 16 teams. They've got litigation. He even pointed that out. And that's true. FSU and Clemson, the ACC is going to go 4 corners. Dean Smith, 4 corners, which means the judge has ruled that the Clemson and FSU have to fight the ACC in Charlotte, North Carolina, in a Charlotte court, which means that Dean Smith and the 4 corners are going to be in place, and they're going to run the clock out, and this will go on forever. And Sankey was so smart. He says, I'm not into recruiting now. I'm into my 16 teams. He kept emphasizing that. My 16 teams. In other words, I don't need Clemson. I don't need FSU to have a good conference. And I thought that was as important as anything he said. And then the second thing I thought that was so important that he said was he got asked a question about the future, and he mentioned that, basically said, I'm going to paraphrase here, we don't know what the NCAA is going to do. Well, guess what? Neither does anybody else. Neither does the NCAA. You got all this litigation and everything going forward. And you and I have talked about it a dozen times. At some point in time, football has to go autonomous. Has to go autonomous. And it sounds simple. Okay, every time I think about it, how it is, I say, yes, it has to happen. But then I start thinking about, okay, when it happens, do you include the group of 5 with there? Or do you say, okay, we're going here because we got all the money and you're going to starve? And there's going to have to be some common sense here, because where are all the transfers coming from? Some of them are coming from other SEC schools and other power conferences. But you look at how many of the guys that are coming in the transfer portal are coming from the group of 5. You can't let these guys starve if you're going to be using them as your feeder system.
Yeah.
So you've got, I love the way that he addressed the NCAA. And basically, a question, he says, what is the NCAA going to do? We don't know. Which leads us to this idea that the NCAA has become insignificant. He says, well, are you going to have separate rules for your Final Four, et cetera, like that? Basically, what he was saying was, we got college football, we know that, but what's going to happen if are we going to leave football? Are we going to take football away, leave basketball and these other sports behind, et cetera? We have a complicated period of time coming up with the NCAA and with all of college sports. What I think that we've got right now is a time that's so complicated that the SEC is ever so fortunate that we've got a guy like Greg Sankey, who you hear me say it all the time, the smartest guy in every room he's in. And it's going to take that kind of guy, that kind of leader through this period, because it's going to be troubling.
Yeah, he never got off script. Here's a longer quote of what we talked about. Kept asking. He says, I've responded 3 times where our focus lies. Our focus is on our 16 members. I have a responsibility to pay attention, but I'm surely not going to fuel speculation on what happens next. We can certainly remain at 16 for a long, long time and remain incredibly successful. Pretty strong messaging right there.
Yes, it is. And what he's just said, paraphrasing, we don't need FSU. We don't need Clemson. We don't need to expand.
Yeah.
And think about this real quick, because I know we're running short on time.
Mm-hmm.
Look what happened when the Big Ten did what it did, as a knee-jerk reaction to the SEC expanding. Mm-hmm. Look what the ACC did as a result, because they didn't want to be left behind. Look what the Big 12 did. The Big 12 is now in 4 time zones. Yeah. How many people do you think are going to be staying up late at night for one of those fabulous Rutgers at UCLA games?
Great point. And I like the fact that Sankey pointed out they're a one contiguous group of states.
You got it.
Women, you got them all that in that little outlying area. The final part of that quote was, we are in the Southeastern Conference. We're the one conference at this level where the name still means something. The Southeastern part of the United States, where when we expanded, we actually restored historic rivalries. Our expansion restored historic rivalries while only adding 100 miles to our longest previous campus-to-campus trip. There you go.
You got it. And this is why I say Sankey is a think first, act later kind of guy.
Yeah.
Typically. Now, in the case of Texas and Oklahoma, that was
well, they can't.
We got to act now, because if they hadn't, they would have gone to the Big Ten or to the Pac-12.
Yeah.
But notice what they did when they did that. They gave themselves a 3-year buffer zone. He even talked about it today and said this is got to be the longest transition, to expansion there's ever been.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have logistical problems. The ACC, can you imagine Wake Forest at Cal Saturday night at 11 o'clock? Are you going to be staying up?
I'll be up for that. I'll set my alarm. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The Big 12, you look at the Big 12, you got West Virginia going out to Arizona State, or Arizona. You're in 4 time zones.
They've had their map gerrymandered. Okay, the famous and well-known Franz Beard is going to write a column tonight, and I can't wait to read it. And Francis, tell folks, give them a hint about it, and tell them when it's going to be posted.
It's going to be posted probably in about an hour,
Mm-hmm.
and it's going to be basically about Greg Sankey today at SEC Media Days. I know that Lane Kiffin was terrific today. I thought Lane stole the show.
He was wonderful. I loved everything about Lane. I even text Paul Feinbaum a note saying how good he was on there, and Paul wrote back he was great.
But Lane Kiffin stole the show in the afternoon. I got to tell you. But I will say this: Greg Sankey gave a State of the Union for the SEC, and I thought that it was powerful. I thought it explained everything exactly the way it should be. And I'll come back to that basic thing. Sweet 16. He really, really laid it out that we are a 16-team league. We're happy. We don't have to expand. All you other people have to. We don't. Good stuff.
Francis, I look forward to reading it. Thanks very much. Great stuff. Talk to you later in the week.
Talk to you, Bud.
Thank you, buddy. Right now, I want to tell you folks about a company called Restart Medical Research. And they're a longtime sponsor of this program. And also some good people in Ocala who do wonderful things for the community there. They're always looking at better ways to treat us, give us our treatment. And we want to let you know, if you like to know more about them and you like more of what they agree, what they believe in, are these clinical research trials. They're very, very important, and they are a part of what Restart does. They're able to get new investigational medications because of it. We urge you, if you would like to take part in some of these clinical trials at no cost to you or your insurance company, to go to restart.net, look up what they've got going on. They're always doing different ones, and see if you can take part in it. In some cases, the compensation covers your time and travel, and you might be the beneficiary of some investigational medications, or in some cases, devices not otherwise open to the public. So check it out. Restart Medical Research. Seeking tomorrow's answers to the health questions of today. Thank you to Rob out in Dallas. I got to get used to saying that. And he'll be on again tomorrow night, Rob Browne. Also, thanks a lot to the QB, Shane Matthews. We'll join him in the morning, bright and early at 8, pot up with Matthews. And thanks to Franz Beard and Gatorberg. We enjoyed being on with you. And we'll be back tomorrow night, same time, same station. I hope you'll come and join us again as we keep track of what's going on in football and what's going on with the SEC and the Florida Gators. Good night.